Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today for another show of running a holistic office. Yay! I'm Kristen Ford. I am the creator and co-founder of Holistic Office. I actually create an awesome EHR for independent medical practices. So while we are waiting here for people to kind of tune in, maybe you can let us know where you're tuning in from. That would be awesome. And if you haven't connected with me yet on LinkedIn, I would love it if you connected with me. And if you also have any questions about today's show, always feel free to send me a message. I'm happy to help out and, just want people to really be able to run their practices in a way that makes them happy, right? And is efficient and all that good stuff. So let's see here if we have anybody. Hey, it's Gabe. Hey, Gabe, how are you today? Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. So while we are waiting for a few other people here, I have a new camera today. So you're going to have to, bear with me while we, work through our first run. But I love it. I think it's a little more engaging and I hope you love it too. So, all right. So why don't we get started today? Today, we are going to talk about what you don't know and how it's hurting your practice. So is the mere thought of bookkeeping just and accounting a headache? Just something you kind of get ready for the accountant so you can muddle through your taxes every year? Are you concerned about fraud in your office at all, but really don't even know how to start checking out to see if that's even a case for you? Is your EHR a great patient management tool, but siloed away from the rest of your practice? Then this is the show for you. So there are 3 things that you most likely don't know, and it is hurting your practice. So first, your books really are your friend. I don't know that everybody always agrees with me on that, but it is true. This is where you can, your books can help you understand what services on products are the most profitable for you. It can help you understand where you're spending money. They can help you keep on track with your budget. And but often they're not set up correctly, so if you're the person, you got QuickBooks and you just kind of took that default chart of accounts, it's probably a little confusing and it's not really giving you the information that you probably would like to see on a monthly basis. This is costing you time, it's costing you money, and it's costing you your peace of mind. Second, your EHR is much more than just a patient record. When you use it correctly, it should also help you track, your patients, what services they're purchasing the most. If you sell products, what products are being purchased the most. And when it's used in conjunction with your books, it can also help you find discrepancies, which could be fraud, or just inefficient processes within your practice. So, using your EHR to its fullest is also really important. And when you don't set it up properly and you aren't using it, it too is costing you time and money. And, who needs that? And third, and I just touched on this, if you aren't reconciling your EHR with your books, you're leaving yourself open to missed opportunities, sometimes fraud, and really you leave yourself to be reacting to your practice instead of managing your practice and working on strategically growing your practice. So let's start with talking about your books, okay? This is something that I used to do all the time as a consultant. And I know anytime I started talking about the chart of accounts and the books, everybody's eyes start just glazing over, right? And I get it. So you can always get help with these things. And my intent for you today is just to understand that there's ways to set this up so that it really does work for you and not just be this, pain in your, what. So, the books are usually referred to as, it's kind of this name given to your chart of accounts, right? And your chart of accounts is really the list of every single account where you put money into, where you categorize your money. And it's frequently talked about your books. And your books are broken up into 5 sections. You have assets, you have liabilities, you have equity in your company, and you have income, and you have expenses. Okay. And in the accounting world, when you number these charts of accounts, they are kind of in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 type category. So any account that starts with a 1 is generally an asset account. This is equipment that you own. This is property that you own. It's all of the assets. These are assets that you own. Anything that starts with a 2, these are your liabilities. These might be maybe loans that you've taken out so that you can get, the most state-of-the-art machinery for your office, right? So those always start with a 2. The equity, this is money you put into your company. Maybe you have partners. It's the money they put into their company too. And those accounts will always start with a 3. And then you have the most popular accounts. You have your revenue accounts, and those usually start with a 4. And that's all the money that you make from the services and products that you sell. Okay. And then we have 5, your expenses. Anything that starts with a 5 is an expense. And this is the money that you spend to actually operate your business or your practice. Okay. And, it's good to number these things because 1, 2, and 3, your assets, your liabilities, and your equity, they show up on your balance sheet. Okay. And this is, the balance sheet is really what gives you an overall picture of the worth of your company. Okay. And then anything that starts with a 4 and 5, that shows up on your profit and loss statement, also called an operating statement, and an income statement. So when you actually number all of these correctly, it actually reduces bookkeeping errors because sometimes you have accounts that kind of sound the same, and your bookkeeper comes in and goes, "Oh, this is great. These, and maybe chooses the wrong account, and you don't really catch it because these accounts they show up on different reports, right? So, numbering them will cut down on bookkeeping errors, and it will also improve your accuracy. Okay. And this is a great time of year to start taking a look at your chart of accounts because if you make a bunch of changes, like if you totally overhaul this thing, I recommend you start at the beginning of the year, a fresh year, so that you aren't trying to compare, months within, 1 year, and all the charts are different. Then you're like, oh my gosh, nothing's matching up, and then it really stinks. So take a look at them and see if you're not doing that, then you should really take a look at it. Because when they're set up properly, you can really see pretty quickly how your practice is doing or your company if you're not a medical practitioner. So in addition to setting up a chart of accounts so it works for you and you can actually find all of the different things that you receive money for or you spend money on, there is either cash accounting or accrual accounting. And I know I can already hear, some of you going, well, you know what, I only take cash, so we do cash accounting. Well, the difference between the two really is that when you account in a cash accounting way, the only time you actually put into your books when you receive money or when you spend money. So if you sell something on Monday, but you don't get money until Friday, you don't get to record it until Friday. Same thing with a bill. You receive a bill and you pay it 30 days later. It doesn't show up in your books until 30 days later. So accrual accounting is the opposite of that, right? So you sell something on Monday, it goes into the books Monday, right? You receive the money on Friday, that's great, but it's still in the books on Monday. And it's the same thing with a bill. You can receive a bill and you received a bill that month, but then you can put it in your books and you can pay it at a later date, but it stays in your books that date. And if you're using cash accounting right now, I'm going to really suggest that you move to accrual. And it's important that you understand that this timing is what's going to allow you to then reconcile any apps, really, but especially your EHR, or if you aren't a medical practice, this is your CRM or your donor database with your books. And you want to do this on a monthly basis so that you can very quickly see any discrepancies in your sales and figure out, what's important to your customers, which is going to end up being important to you too, right? And your books are designed for this. Your books are designed to integrate with other apps, specifically your merchant processor, for any of you guys who accept debit or credit cards, and it will let you easily reconcile with any other app as well. And the reason why I want you to really consider accrual accounting specifically is because, when you are booking your sales or you're tracking your sales through your EHR, which makes a lot of sense, right? You just saw your patient checks out, and somebody at reception sets up a little invoice and collects payment and everything. And you're like, hey, this is great, right? That's the way it should be. Your merchant processor may wait a good 2 or 3 days before that money hits your account. And usually during the month, it's not that big of a deal, but if you are making sales at the last day of the month and you don't get money until the next month, then your sales aren't going to reconcile. And I'm sure some of you can really relate that you get to the end of the month and you're running this report and you're like, well, if I take this out, I add this in, I take this out, and you spend hours on it, and then you aren't even completely sure that it's correct. So reconciling this is really super important, and it's going to save you a lot of heartaches, and you're going to find discrepancies and inconsistencies very, very quickly. Okay. So that's about your books. Let's talk about the EHR for a minute. That is the heart of your patient management, and you know this. And when it's used to its fullest, though, you should also be able to manage your scheduling, your patient recommendations and visits, and your sales, among other things, right? It should be an entire practice management tool. So when you use your EHR for sales, which you should do so that you can track your patients, what they're purchasing, and also determine the stick rate, right? You guys all make recommendations. And do you always know when your patients are following these things? Well, this is a good way to kind of figure out, if you can. If you're using your EHR for sales, then, take a minute and let's set this up so that it works for you and reconciles easily with your books, right? So take the time, list all of your services and your products so that your staff doesn't do that for you. I can't tell you how many reports I've received where we have the exact same product listed 3 different ways because 3 different people didn't know how to look it up or find it. So they just made a new one. Isn't that cool? Or they combined a bunch of products together. So we have services and products, and we just have this lump sum number, and we have no idea really what we just sold. So, it could be an issue. So spend some time and figure out what each of your products and services are, enter them into your EHR, and then mirror that in your books. So we're going to set up the same thing in your books so that, when you go to run your reports, you very easily know where to categorize them. And then you can see, what type of products and services are selling at the best. And at the end of the month, you can run this report, just like I said, and reconcile them. So let's recap here just a little bit, because all of these things are going to save you money, and they're going to make your practice run smoother, and they're going to let you spend more time on your patients and a lot less time struggling with figuring out what the heck's going on financially, right? So let's see here. First thing we're going to talk about, recap, these are the 3 things that you can do, the 3 tips immediately that you can do to get the most from your books. I want you to number your accounts. I want you to use accrual accounting, and I want you to integrate your books with your merchant processor or your EHR, and not both at the same time, so we don't want duplicate sales, but usually it's the merchant processor, and I think that's a good way to go. Also, to recap, the 3 tips to get the most from your EHR. Set up your products and services. Don't leave that to just make it up as you go along, right? And then let's map or mirror those to your books. And then you're going to reconcile your sales to your books monthly. So I hope these were all helpful for you, because if you're not doing these basic things, you are setting yourself up to miss opportunities, and you're going to spend more time reacting to your practice than strategizing your practice so it can grow. So last week, we asked everybody here if they had some ideas about our little Daisy Poo. We decided to give her a new title. And so I'd like to introduce to you our new Chief Companion Officer. How can I forget that, right? Oh my goodness. So here's a little bit about our Daisy girl. She spent some time at the beach, and here she is coming on in after catching a ball and having an awesome time. Yep, let's watch this one again because we love her. She's our companion. All right, everybody. Well, listen, thank you again for joining us today for another edition of Running a Holistic Office. If you are on Facebook, why don't you like our page and you can follow us there. Again, if you have any questions about today or would like some help on how to get started, just give me shoot me over a message, and I'm happy to share any resources and tips that I have, because when your practice runs smoothly, your staff's happier, your patients are happier, and you're happier, and that's what's important to me. So I'll see you next week. And this is where we're going to talk about, hey, it's the middle of the month. And are you reviewing your financials? Yes, everybody's favorite topic, their financials. So we'll see you next Tuesday at noon. And thank you again for joining us today. All right, everybody. Bye.